Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're having some microphone problems, so we're back to like the old janky microphone from back in the day. Hope you don't mind. I was always beating myself up about like the sound, the audio quality, but in retrospect, it's actually not that bad. So yeah. I hope everyone's okay with that. I just need to buy a new cord, and I'm in the middle of moving out, so like I don't have the time to do any of that. Did you know that the Disney Channel original movie Geek Charming was actually based off of a novel? Geek Charming, written by Robin Palmer, came out in 2009, and I'm pretty sure the movie came out in 2012. I thought it would be a fun little experiment to actually read the book that this movie was based off of, and, you know, spot the differences. I don't know if you can tell, but I've made extensive notes. Just for anyone who's not aware, I am currently doing a little mini-series on my channel where I talk about different Disney Channel original movies, all leading up to me reviewing every single DCOM in one big ranking video, which will probably be very long and won't come out until the end of the year. So this is kind of like me building up like channel hype for it. So we previously talked about Radio Rebel. That movie was also based on a book, but I didn't finish the book for that one. It was, I couldn't do it, if I'm being honest. I was gonna make a joke like, you couldn't pay me to finish reading the Radio Rebel book, but like, honestly, somebody could pay me. And I probably would finish it. So that small little section of that bigger video is just gonna be the entirety of this video. And I actually quite love Geek Charming. It's a movie that I've always thought, you know, in the situation of DCOMs, always had a lot more like thought and effort put into it. And so I was really excited to read the book that it's based off of. I've read multiple DCOM books at this point, and by multiple I mean two. When I was in middle school, I read the Lemonade Mouth book, which was probably like the perfect age for someone to read that novel. It is great for like tween age kids. I mean, the characters in Lemonade Mouth are supposed to be freshmen in high school, around 14 years old, and I was about to enter high school when I read it, so like, great timing, and it's a great book for children. It is an amazing novel. And the movie, well, spoiler alert, is one of my favorite, if not my favorite DCOM. It is definitely a lot watered down from the original novel, because there's a lot of things in there that aren't like Disney Channel friendly, so they had to kind of, you know, cut around it, and just in general, a lot of movies have that problem where they just can't include everything in the book because the book spans just like a lot more time. And I think people have reviewed the Lemonade Mouth book before already, so I don't really feel the need to talk about it. Unless people want me to, then I will. So I figured Geek Charming would be the great first place to start when it comes to talking about book to movie adaptations. Can I clarify real quick? I don't know if this even matters in relation to this, but I'm currently an English major. I'm going to college to get a BA in English and a minor in secondary education. So I kind of do shit like this every day in all of my classes, except it's on books that actually matter. So I just thought it would be really interesting to do that with this thing. A common joke I've been making is that the whole reason why I went to school is so I can apply the knowledge that I learn to shit that no one cares about, like these books. I have a tabbing system, and I could tell you what it is, but I don't think anyone cares. So let's just get into it. Also, I genuinely didn't mean for the two first DCOMs that I talk about on my channel to be the ones that feature actors from My Babysitter's a Vampire. Like, I promise that was completely on accident. It's funny how I still refer to Vanessa Morgan as the actress from My Babysitter's a Vampire, when she has been well known for other projects much bigger than that show for a very long time now. I guess she's more known as like the Riverdale character, but still. Anyways, I'm going to give a plot summary of the film for those who haven't seen it or can't remember what happens because the movie originally aired over a decade ago. Geek Charming follows the characters of Dylan Schoenfeld and Josh Rosen, who live on opposite sides of the popularity spectrum. Dylan lives a glamorous, wealthy life with a father who owns the local shopping mall and has all the social capital one could want as a teenager obsessed with everything trendy. At the start, she's seen as vapid, conceited, and only cares about winning Blossom Queen at the spring formal. She also has a boyfriend named Asher, who's 2010s hot and doesn't even like Dylan all that much. Josh, on the other hand, lives an average middle-class lifestyle with no material desires other than his love for cinema. He's the president of the film club and is seen as a huge geek among the student body, and desires to compete in a short film competition for his school, even though he has no idea what to make it about. He has a crush on a rocker girl named Amy Lubaloo, who is very nice and approachable, but Josh is still afraid to talk to her. Their meet cute happens when they run into each other at lunch, and Josh's food gets dumped all over Dylan's clothes. Later that day at the mall, Dylan drops her new designer bag into the water fountain display and screams for anyone to help her. Josh, who works at the cell phone repair kiosk, immediately leaps into the fountain to retrieve her bag, but with a motive. He proposes that he make a documentary about her life and the state of popularity at their school, which Dylan agrees to because she thinks it'll be great promotion for her Blossom Queen campaign. The two clash at the beginning, which is where your classic screwball rom-com moments where you slowly see the two learn more about each other through their bickering comes into play. In the second act, after Asher's beach volleyball game, where Josh learns that Amy and Dylan used to be close friends, there's a fiasco where Dylan's car gets towed and Josh's car breaks down, and they get into a massive fight where they both decide to quit doing the movie. However, Josh is told he can't change the topic of his film this late into the competition, and Dylan is afraid she's going to lose to her cheerleader competition, Nicole, so she goes to apologize. She does this at a Flight of the Navigator late-night screening, and Josh gives her a ride home. Earlier on, we had learned that even though Dylan acts vapid and airheaded around her friends and boyfriend, she's actually really smart and wants to win Blossom Queen because her mom did when she was in high school, and it's how she met her father. Her mom has been dead for many years now, so she sees winning as a way of truly being close to her. Dylan invites Josh inside after he drops her off, and they have a fun evening where they make an everything but the kitchen sink sundae, and they gossip about Josh's lack of a love life. Dylan proposes that they give Josh a makeover, and even though he protests at first, he eventually gives in. You get your classic makeover montage, it's fun, whatever, and later that night they have dinner at Josh's house, and his mom asks Dylan if they're dating, but she denies it since she has a boyfriend. Apparently their friends didn't know about their weekend makeover plans, and they both get pushback from their friends about their new close list, saying that it's messing with the status quo, or whatever. Josh finally asks Amy out on a date, and they go to a party Asher is hosting at his house. The whole time, the two are thinking about each other, and when Josh in private asks Dylan for romantic advice, they almost kiss, until their respective dates catch them and the two split up. Amy can see what's obviously there, and rejects Josh when he asks her to go to spring formal. By the way, Dylan also needs glasses. She's extremely blind, and the next morning when she's running late and out of contact lenses, she has to go to school with her glasses on. Later that day, Asher breaks up with her via a note during class, and all of her friends ditch her to go dress shopping since she no longer has a date. Josh is constantly getting compliments in the hallway and is being chastised by his friends who notice him picking up Dylan's trendy way of speaking and now goes to parties and ditches the film club society meetings. So they replace him as president with Caitlin, who had always had a secret crush on him the entire time, but has finally moved on, I guess. He's also having trouble finishing the short film, and he has to ask for an extension just so he can get the thing finished. Since Dylan and Asher have been broken up, she's pretty much lost all of her popularity, and her rival Nicole is now sitting at her coveted spot in the lunchroom cafeteria, next to Asher. Then it's time for the screenings of the short film contestants. The whole school is there to watch the film about Dylan, and at the start, it seems to be a smear campaign. We see all the horrible things she said earlier when the two were clashing, and everyone's laughing at her stupidity and her vapidness. She runs out of the theater, embarrassed and portrayed by somebody she liked and who she thought she could trust. As the film goes on, however, we see Josh dismantle this idea of her through his filmmaking and narration, revealing all of the layers underneath the surface that we all saw revealed to us as the movie we're currently watching went on. And at the end, the film gets a standing ovation, with everyone seeing Dylan for who she truly is. Dylan doesn't know this, however, and as she's wallowing in a gallon of ice cream, Amy comes over to console her and gives her a copy of Josh's short film so she can watch the full thing. She realizes that Amy was her only true friend who didn't ditch her as soon as her popularity ran out, and was there for her even after all these years of being ignored. At the spring formal, Dylan is wearing her mother's Blossom Queen dress and is hounded by all of her fair-weather friends after the film put her back on top again, but she's dejected by the whole system now after being put through the ringer. Of course she wins Blossom Queen, and she gives an inspirational Katie Heron-style speech and announces her love for Josh at the very end. They wade through a crowd attempting to reach each other, and once they do, they kiss and the credits roll, all with some cheeky fourth wall breaking at the end.
So, I'm thinking sequel? sequels are never as good as the original. Everyone knows that.
Okay, so real quickly, I don't have my microphone right now. Cord is still broken, but I wanted to show you guys the Geek Charming DVD that I have. I bought this, I can't remember when already. I think it's been already a year now, because I quite like this movie, and I wanted to own a copy of it. And you're probably looking here in the corner, and you see 1999. And you're probably asking, did you really pay 20 bucks for this brand new at Best Buy? And the answer is, no, I did not. I bought this used somewhere. I can't remember where now. It could have been Amazon. It could have been just like some random website. When I googled it, you'd think I'd remember the website I bought it from, but I don't. And it was definitely under $10 when I bought it. I was absolutely shocked when I saw this 1999 sticker from Best Buy. And it was still wrapped in the plastic and everything. Like, this was brand new, unopened, unused, untouched. And I got it for like more than half off of what it was originally being sold for. My theory is that either like a Best Buy had a bunch of overstock of this product and just decided to sell it to some kind of liquidation service who then put it up on their website for a reduced price, and then I bought it. Or like a Best Buy closed down and they had a bunch of like dusty boxes of unsold merchandise that they then sold to people, and somebody went in and scooped up a bunch of product. Or maybe someone just had this collecting dust in their closet for like over a decade and had just never opened it. Like, they got it as a birthday gift or something and they just didn't want it, and then just decided to resell it randomly one day. It might have been eBay, which is why I'm like so concerned about the history of this. I'm like, why was it still in the plastic, like new, brand new, and so cheap? I guess people just like don't really care about DVDs anymore. That's a very big possible theory. As a kid, I was absolutely obsessed with this kind of stuff. Like, I would see this in the store and I would just like be gagged over it and I would want it so bad. Just something about like a DVD plus like extra episodes of a TV show and like a little charm, like it just blew my mind that you could package that all together. Very rarely did I actually get this kind of stuff though, because again, 20 bucks. So I've already opened this up and I've already used it, but you know, I just wanted to show you guys. So it comes with a sleeve. Comes with 10 episodes of Shake It Up. Hell yeah. Crack it open. As you can see here, there's this little charm that it came with. If I would have remembered or known about this while I was recording the video, I probably would have like put it on a necklace and worn it, but I completely forgot. Oh, hell yeah. Disney movie rewards. Let's go. Oh, and then a slip for an ABC Family show called Jane by Design. Have any of you guys seen this before? I loved it when they would include like advertisements in DVDs. It like automatically dates like whenever this thing came out. Definitely gonna put this on a bracelet and wear it literally every day of my life. So yes, here's the DVD with Geek Charming and then a few episodes of Shake It Up, and then a separate DVD that just has episodes of Shake It Up. I really wish we still had this. Like, imagine paying 20 bucks for all of this. Nowadays, you pay 20 bucks just for the movie, and it's on a streaming service, so like, you don't even physically own it. You need Wi-Fi to be able to watch it. Versus right now, I'm literally so bored out of my mind, I have no Wi-Fi because a massive snowstorm is happening outside. That is why I've decided to hyper work on this video, even though it's been an idea and a bunch of filming that I've done that's been sitting on a hard drive of mine for like 9 months now. Anyways, just wanted to rant about how the fact that I am afraid I might die, and show off my Geek Charming DVD. I should have done the same for the Radio Rebel DVD, because I also have a copy of that. Here it is, by the way. There's the Radio Rebel DVD. I actually taped it to my Pump Up the Volume DVD, which is how I did that like effect where like when I went to go pull out the Radio Rebel one, like this one fell out. Anyways, movie magic. Back to the real video happening. Bet you're jealous that I have them a BAV DVD too. I think one of the most important things that needs to be known about this novel is that it is a modern retelling of the Grimm's Brothers' tale fairy tale, The Frog Prince. It's not pretty obvious from the title, because Geek Charming more references like Cinderella in my opinion, like Prince Charming. But on the back of the book, on the blurb, it says, Princess meet Frog. So like, that's the whole idea, is that this is supposed to be a modern retelling of The Frog Prince. Robin Palmer has done similar stories like this. From what I can tell in the back of this book, apparently she wrote a novel called Cindy-Ella, which I much more prefer than just keeping the character's name as Cinderella. And then the other thing about Princess and the Frog is that the modern understanding of Princess and the Frog is very different from the original Grimm's Brothers fairy tale. and that is also the case for pretty much any Disney movie that has been made off of a fairy tale. The 2009 Disney Princess and the Frog movie is like a play on the play of the original story. So it's like 3 degrees of separation from the original Frog Prince story. It's kind of wild, actually. So for those who never got the Frog Prince read to them as a bedtime story, allow me to give a general recap of what it's about, because it's important to understanding the contents of this novel. Not of the movie, by the way. I'll just say that right now. The movie removes all Frog Prince iconography from its story, and in my opinion, for a great reason. Like any Grimm's Brothers fairy tale, there's like 20 different versions of it, but generally what you need to know is that the story follows a princess who loves playing with a golden ball. I think it's made of gold, which means it's probably pretty heavy, which is weird because she likes to throw it in the air and catch it. Like, she plays with this shiny golden ball. And one day she's at a swamp, and she accidentally throws the ball into like a swamp lake. So it sinks to the bottom, and she's freaking out, and she's like, "Can someone please help me find my gold ball?" And eventually a frog swims up and says, "Hey, I'll help you find your ball." And she's like, "Frog, go get the ball for me." And the frog says, "I'll get the ball for you if I can be your companion." Specifically, he says, "If I can eat from your plate, drink from your cup, and sleep in your bed." And in some stories, it's only for 1 night, and in others, it's for 3 days. So she says yes, with no intention of actually fulfilling this, because he's a fucking frog. So he goes back down to the water, and he retrieves the golden ball for her, and she snatches it from him and bolts, like she dips. And the frog is like, "Wait, come back, you're forgetting about me." And she's like, doesn't even hear him. She's like, "Fuck you, whatever." So then later that day, as she's eating with her king father, the frog comes up to the door, knocks on the door, and is like, "Hey bestie, what about our promise?" And the king is like, "You're such a dickhead for promising this frog you'd do something for him and then not doing it. Let him in, do what you said you were going to do for him." So the king, like, holds the princess responsible. And so she does. Although she is very hesitant and doesn't want to do it the entire time. Like, she hates it the entire time. Not once does she be like, "Oh, the frog's kind of a cool guy." It's like, she just hates him the entire time. In some versions of the story that I read, on the first night, when she, like, tucks him into bed, he's like, "Come on, get into bed with me. Let's just, go to sleep in the same bed together." And she's like, "Fuck you," and she grabs him and throws him against the wall. And then on the third night, when the frog goes to bed, he awakes as a beautiful prince. Yeah, we all expected that. In the version where she throws him against the wall, as he splats on the ground, he turns into the prince. That's the version that I think is the funniest. And then he's like, "I was cursed by an evil witch to be a frog, and the curse was that you specifically had to give me love and compassion and treat me as royalty, and then I would become royalty again. I'm very rich and wealthy and a prince. Let's go off to my castle and we'll marry." And then that's how the story ends. So in my personal hypothesis, I think that the author found out about the original Frog Prince story and thought, "Wow, I can't believe that, like, they are completely platonic throughout the entire story, yet has been misconstrued as it being like a romance thing, like kissing the frog." And that's what maybe inspired her to write this version of the novel. I have no proof of that, of course, but that's just my personal theory. Because the biggest change that this book makes from the movie, which I will definitely touch on more later near the end of the video, but I will clarify right away just so you know, is that in the book, the two do not get together. They're not romantically involved in any way whatsoever throughout the entire thing. So that's the biggest change that the Disney Channel made when making the movie. I know a lot of you are probably very upset by that. Like, of course they put romance into the story about, like, platonic male-female friendships, but, like, we'll get there, okay? Personally, I think Disney Channel did what they did on purpose, and actually for a good reason, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So yes, this is a modern retelling. You can't even fucking see it on the camera. Okay. This is a modern retelling of The Frog Prince. So what are the adaptational changes they made to the original fairy tale? Well, instead of a gold ball, it is of course a purse. In this version of the story, it's a red purse though, that's what's on the cover, but like, at least in the movie they made it a gold purse. Like, why wasn't it a gold purse in the book when it's supposed to be like the direct translation of the golden ball? Whatever. Oh, oops. So this story follows the two perspectives of Dylan and Josh. So each chapter alternates from being first person limited point of view. So like chapter 1 says Dylan, and chapter 2 says Josh, and so each chapter title tells you which point of view you're going to follow, and it strictly stays to alternating back and forth between the two. The novel opens on the mall scene, where Dylan is shopping at the mall with her friends, and she accidentally throws her purse into the fountain. So as you can see, that scene from the movie is directly from the book, but in the book it is supposed to be like the Frog Prince equivalent of dropping the golden ball in the lake. The scene plays out much more awkwardly and much weirder in the book than it does in the movie, in my opinion. I want to preface everything with my opinion by saying that because, you know, I bet there are people out there who read this book when they were young and really loved it. So everyone's allowed to feel the way they want to feel. But in my opinion, this being forced to be a retelling of the Frog Prince makes it a lesser story. And once the movie was no longer confined to those shackles, it was able to do a lot more with the premise. So in the novel, she throws her purse into the fountain and she's like, "Will someone please help me?" And no one's helping her. The security guards are like, "Stop yelling or we're gonna kick you out." And she's like, "My dad owns the mall." And he's like, "Oh, sorry." And then Josh is there and he like falls over Hannah's purse, I think. So like he's not even like doing this on purpose. He just falls over. And she's like, "Can you go get my purse? It's in the water fountain right now." And he's like, "I'm not gonna get your stupid purse." And she's like, "Please, I'll be your friend on Facebook. Actually, I can just read the scene for you guys. I need you to climb in there and get my bag. Like, this very second." He put on his now crooked glasses back on to get a better look. It took everything in me to not reach over and push his shaggy brown hair off his face. Didn't he realize the whole emo look was so 2006? "You're kidding, right?" he said. Let me think about that. No, I yelled. "Do you realize what kind of diseases a person can get in there?" he asked. "In addition to leptospirosis, there's shingillosis and..." "What are you talking about? I read it on WebMD," he said defensively. "Plus, I'm susceptible to inner ear infections, so I have to be careful not to get water in my ear." "It's only like 2 feet deep in there," I exclaimed. "It's not like I'm asking you to deep-sea dive in the Bahamas. Please," I begged. "I'll give you $100. He shook his head. "Sorry, I really can't help you." I'm gonna skip over a little bit. I grabbed Geek Boy by the shoulders. "Please, you've got to help me. I'll do anything. I was about to say, let you take me out on a date, but then I thought better of it. "I'll be your friend on Facebook. Please, just tell me what it'll take to make you go get my bag." As he took another squirt of his inhaler. His eyes bugged out and a huge smile came over his face. "I'll do it if you let me film you and your friends," he said. "Ew," I squealed. "What are you, some kind of pervert? That's totally disgusting." "No, I mean make a documentary about you. I've been trying to think of something special to send my essay for you." See, okay, whatever. See, her purse is floating and they're like monologuing to each other. They're having a full-on soliloquy. So she says yes, but then in no way intends on actually fulfilling the promise of making a documentary about her. And then I think by chapter 3, once we head back into Dylan's point of view, she comes home and sees that her dad and Josh are like hanging out watching movies together on the couch eating sandwiches, which is another scene that was pulled directly from the book into the movie. But the context is much different and it's better, again, in my opinion. The changing of letting the frog stay in her castle and sleep in her bed to letting the frog, Josh, film a documentary about her just doesn't make any sense. They're not comparable at all. So it makes the whole setup and premise not fun if like her daddy is forcing her to do the documentary with Josh, because that's what it is. He's literally like, "You promised this boy that you would let him make a documentary about you." And she's like, "I don't want to. Ew, no." And he's like, "I'm forcing you to." I think he takes away her car, the beautiful BMW that she drives. So it makes it not fun. In the movie, it's fun because they're both mutually gaining from this experience. There's a reason why she's making the film. There's literally no reason why she's making the film in the book. Maybe in this version, that's the modern retelling, Josh's house floods or something. I don't know. And Dylan's dad offers his family to stay with them in their huge mansion. And she's like, "Ew, no, please don't." And you can even tie that back to, like, you know, him saving the golden ball for her or whatever. Like, in my mind, that makes a much more obvious modern comparison. Because the filming of a movie thing isn't the same as, like, drinking from her cup, eating from her plate, sleeping in her bed. It's like now they're not sharing anything. It doesn't work. Another big part of the film that, in my opinion, also doesn't work is the fact that Josh's buddies are with him the entire time. So, like, Ari and Steven are there, like, every time they film something together. So, when Josh goes onto the ramp, that big triumphant scene where, like, they cross borders into the popular area on the cafeteria, like, Ari and Steven are there. So if them making the movie is supposed to be like a bonding moment, it's not, it doesn't work because his two gross dudes are next to them all the whole time. The only time they hang out or talk alone is when they're not doing the movie. So it's like, why? We'll get into their characterization after this section, because a lot of how Josh and Dylan are characterized makes sense for this version of the story as well. There are many locations in the book that did not translate over into the movie. For example, Josh and Dylan frequently go to like this diner that is apparently in either a strip mall or in the mall that Dylan's dad owns. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a Johnny Rockets situation where it's like a diner inside a mall as like a kiosk or something, or if it's just like in the area next to a strip mall. But it's described as a place that only old people go to, and it's like a greasy spoon style, like, vintage diner. And Josh loves going here because I guess he likes looking at all the old people hang out, and Dylan's like never been or never heard of it before. In the book, there's a whole Halloween party that happens, and they go to a college party specifically. By the way, they're seniors in this book, so they're about to graduate. That's like kind of a big part of it. I think that's like subtly noted in the movie, but it's never outright said. Like, they're seniors, but yeah, they're like 17 years old or whatever at this point. So they go to a college party, which is already weird, and Dylan gets drunk, and Josh has to like drive her home. It's such an interesting scene. Obviously, it was cut out of the decom. I'm pretty sure that's where the Everything But the Kitchen Sink Sunday appears in the novel first, which is like this cute little tradition that she does with her friends and her father and stuff, and her and Josh do together. But in the novel, it's because he drove her home from like being drunk at a party and embarrassing herself or whatever. Oh, that's not the Halloween party, actually. I'm confusing things. There are two separate parties that they go to, and I'm pretty sure they're both college parties. The first one is just a random college party that's happening at a fraternity house, and that's the one where she gets drunk and embarrasses herself just a little bit in front of the camera because they're filming the documentary, and then Josh takes her home and they watch a movie together, and it's a cute little friendship moment for them. And then near the very end of the book, there is a Halloween party as well, and that's like a really bad moment for Dylan. Real quickly, I'll just mention that Neil Diamond is mentioned a lot in the book. Apparently Josh is a big fan of Neil Diamond, which is supposed to be like a little geeky character trait of his. And apparently Dylan's dad also loves Neil Diamond, so like they bonded over that during that little lunch scene. That was probably cut because they didn't want to have to license any Neil Diamond songs. Very rarely will you hear like modern pop songs or whatever in DComs, and if you had, that's a stealth Disney Plus movie in disguise. So I think this will be a topic that'll neatly transition us into the elements of the book that relate to the characters, and that's the film references. So Josh is of course a film buff in both versions of the story. He loves movies and he talks about them a lot, but the types of movies and the kind of archetype of film nerd that Josh is different in the book than it is from the movie. So in the book, Josh is like the most stereotypical like movie film bro ever. And by that I mean like he loves Quentin Tarantino. I was gonna list other directors, but like yeah, he's like a Tarantino stan. The part that like really aged the worst and caused me to actually finally use my pink tabs, pink means bad elements of the book by the way, in this story, is that Josh is like a Woody Allen stan. Like he loves Woody Allen and specifically the movie Annie Hall. And you can see a lot of Annie Hall in this book as well. It was clearly a huge inspiration for how this story went, because that is notoriously a rom-com where the two don't end up together. At least I've heard. I don't know, I've never actually seen a Woody Allen film before, and I probably never will. But yeah, he's obsessed with Woody Allen, Quentin Tarantino, and I think the other more popular director that they drop is Steven Spielberg, which, yeah, makes sense. That cute little scene where Dylan joins Josh on like a movie marathon thing they go to. I'm pretty sure is a Steven Spielberg double feature. I think it's like Jaws and then like AI or something, like 2 films from different decades that he made. And that's also a scene that just became so less fun when reading it for the book. I don't know if I've clarified it yet already because I'm filming this kind of out of order, but like I'm very biased towards the movie, of course, because I watched it when I was really young, and it's something I've seen multiple times, versus the book, which I've only just read now once as a jaded adult. But I genuinely think that the movie just made good, stylistic changes to the story to make it more interesting and compelling. Josh works at like a Best Buy parody in the book. In the movie, it's like a T-Mobile or like a Verizon parody. So he still works in like a tech place that's inside the mall. And in the Best Buy parody, Josh has a manager who's like 25, and he's also like a film nerd, but like kind of a more like neck-beardy, greasy, kind of sweaty type. I don't like the way that they talk about people in this book, by the way, but whatever. And that is who Josh is going to see the movie with. And then afterwards, they all go to that greasy diner to eat, and maybe I should just read the scene for you guys. His name is Raymond, and he's this creepy old man who starts hitting on Dylan. Dylan, forgive me for being so bold here, said Raymond, but what's your stance on May-December romances? May what? Relationships where one partner is significantly older than the other? Listen, I'm not one of those people who beats around the bush. You can ask anyone at Goodbyes. When something's on my mind, I have no problem saying it. And the fact of the matter is that I'm very attracted to you, Dylan, and I'd say from what I've observed in your body language this evening, from that time you came by my store, the feeling is mutual. Therefore, even though I'm 23, I'd very much like to escort you to your upcoming dance. I turned to Josh and gave him a panicked look, but he didn't seem to see it because his head was in his hands. Obviously, a few heads may turn because of the age difference between us, Raymond confused, but you strike me as a trailblazer and someone who doesn't buckle under the weight of social conformity, so I'm thinking you can handle what might be viewed as a potential scandal. He grabbed my hand across the table. So what do you think? Are you up for it? Are you ready to take another chance on love so soon? She just broke up with Asher by this point, by the way. She'd love to, but she and I already had plans to hang out that night. We're gonna have a Woody Allen film festival, right? Right, Dylan? I turned to him and smiled with relief. Right. So maybe it wasn't the fall fling evening I had been dreaming about, and obviously I wouldn't be adding a crown to my collection, but hey, I'd be with my best friend rather than stuck at home by myself, not to mention that it took the pressure off of having to decide between the 3 dresses I had bought for the occasion. One of the worst sections of a book I've read in a long time. They make it very clear throughout the entire novel that like both Josh and Dylan have like fake friends who aren't like good companions at all, and so that them finding each other and being best friends with each other is like a net positive, which is great and all, but at least even though Hannah and Lola are like fake friends and like only friends with her for clout, like at least one of them isn't a pedophile. Anyways, in the movie they had to change this because you can't really mention Quentin Tarantino in DCOMs, I'm pretty sure. So I think the movie made a very smart change by making it so that Josh and his friends are really into like old movies. Specifically in the scene where Josh and Dylan's father, he has a name, I just don't remember it. Don't come for me, guys. Josh and Dylan's dad are watching specifically the movie Metropolis, which is a great film actually.
It's funny because I filmed this a very long time ago, and I've now actually been taking a film history class in college, and I actually had to write a paper about Metropolis, so I've seen the movie a few times, and I'm not gonna like give a full review or anything, especially because it's such a renowned film, but I kind of like its inclusion in here. I think it's a great little kind of mini moment in the film that like just sparked joy for me. Anybody who would be working on a Disney Channel show has to at least taken some sort of film 101 class, which is definitely where you would learn about this film. So it's nice to see any writers or directors or anyone who worked on the project just, adding in a lot of classic films to the film instead of relying so much on like the gritty kind of film dude bro stereotype that the book relies on. That's just something that I appreciated seeing in the film. And especially when I first watched the movie, I was like, whoa, that's cool, because like the most revolutionary film I had seen at the time was Bring It On. should be considered up in the echelons of quality movies along with Metropolis. Why isn't it on the Criterion list yet?
I'm pretty sure it's from 1926, and it's a very revolutionary film. It's like, yeah, any like film guy would know that movie and choose to watch it. They reference movies like Dracula, and then I think they talk about Spielberg movies as well.
So, of course, in the movie, they change the film that they go to see together to Flight of the Navigator.
Didn't have to ask for the licensing rights for that movie because it was already owned by the corporation. Isn't that awesome? So yeah, that was a stylistic change I very much preferred, that's for sure. And that's pretty much the case for everything that the movie changed about the book when it comes to the characters, in my opinion. I don't know why, but we're 2 for 3 for bad portrayal of the characters in the book, in the movie doing it better. Because this was also the case in the Radio Rebel book, which I talked about, that for some reason, in the movie, the characters are more nuanced and have more going on for them than they do in the book. You can watch that video if you want. It's only an hour and 30 minutes. No big deal. But yeah, in Shrinking Violet, Tara is like extremely not like other girls, and Stacy is just like annoying, like stereotypical mean girl bimbo. And it's just like, it's so uninteresting and bland. Although I never finished that book, so maybe there's some more interesting stuff in there that I just never got to read. But in this version of the story, Dylan and Josh are just like more concentrated versions of the like geek and popular kid dynamic. I need water. I'm parched from talking so much trash about this movie and book. Josh is like a very stereotypical nerd. He wears glasses, he uses an inhaler, although I'm pretty sure in the book he doesn't actually have asthma. He uses his inhaler as a way to like treat his anxiety, which is I think very bad and is something that, you know, should not go as unchecked in the book as it does. And there's the same thing with Dylan when it comes to weight loss. But Josh is very much, I'm pretty sure the term is hypochondriac, where he thinks he has like 20 different illnesses when he doesn't. It's just his anxiety. So that's like a character thing that he gets over time throughout the novel. Not as much as you'd think, though. Dylan is a stereotypical popular girl. She is specifically described as having blonde hair and blue eyes. She dresses a lot more different in the novel. It's a little bit more trashy, I guess, compared to, you know, the very preppy look they have going for her in the movie.
One sort of superficial thing that I've noticed about the shift in how popular characters are portrayed, at least in 2010's DCOMs, is the way that they're styled, how they're described as dressing in the book versus how they're actually styled in the movie. It's very much giving Versace versus Armani kind of situation. If you know that quote from Anna Wintour, then you know what I'm saying here. Although all the preppy girls in DCOMs are usually dressed very Chanel, I've noticed. Again, in the 2010s, I guess that was like the image of snooty, preppy, popular girl. It reads a little bit too much Reagan red to me. But, you know, maybe that's just me. Sound off in the comments what you think about 2010's DCOM popular kid style. I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Because I'm pretty sure Dylan's spring fling dress that she wears in the book is like a cocktail dress, like a sleeveless black like tube top dress basically, and then it has like cheetah print fur like around it, and then she has like wristlets or something. It's so like Jersey Shore kind of tacky. I mean, I love it, but in the movie it's a little more classy. Oh, one big thing I forgot to mention about Dylan, and I should have done this earlier. She's not like a secret genius who wears glasses, by the way. Like, she specifically even says, like, in her narration, like, I'm not the brightest person, I'm awful at school, all I know about is shopping and, like, looking pretty. She, like, specifically says that, and she's like, that's what my priorities are, because my goal in life is to, you know, become a wife to a rich man, and then just live that, like, rich person socialite life. One character we do get more development on is Josh's mom, actually. It's described that she was one of those people, like what Dylan aspires to be when she grows up. She married a rich lawyer and lived that, you know, high society socialite life, but then apparently he was cheating on her, so she divorced him and left him, and now lives like a, you know, yoga mom existence in like a small little borough in Hollywood with her son. Dylan's mom is like not a thing at all in the whole book. I'm pretty sure her mom is dead. If not dead, then yeah, not in their lives anymore. It's just her and her father has a girlfriend. But there's nothing in this book in relation to her mom at all. She just wants to be Spring Fling Queen because she is, like, popular, and she wants to be the most popular person ever. In the book, she doesn't even go to Spring Fling, by the way. We don't actually have a moment where they go to the dance. Like I read there, she decides to hang out with Josh because Raymond asked her, and they, like, yeah, were grossed out over that. So Dylan does get, like, dressed up in her Spring Fling outfit, even though she's not going, and then she just has a very boring day. We'll get into the details of the Spring Fling thing once we get to the ending. So just like in the movie, Josh has a crush on Amy Lubaloo, although her character is very different in the movie. In the book, she's also just a popular girl the same way as Dylan, but she's just, like, perfect. I think I even took a note in here, because I like to write in the margins. But I specifically wrote a note here in the margins because Josh is like, oh, Amy Lubaloo is the most perfect girl in the whole world and she can't do anything wrong and she's literally, like, the best person ever. And I was like, oh, okay, that's foreshadowing, setting up that, like, she's not gonna live up to the expectations for Josh, because I didn't know that how the story was going to play out for them two, because in the movie they don't work out. That's exactly what happens in the movie. Josh and Amy go on a date and they're just not as compatible. The version of her in his mind is not exactly what she ended up being in real life. And she's the smart one there who realizes that and is like, Josh, I think you like Dylan. And she's the one who breaks it off and is like, you know, go after her. Again, Amy is such an interesting character in the movie. She really is. But in the book, no, she is just perfect. Like, she just is. I kept waiting for that moment where she's like, I don't know why everyone thinks I'm so perfect all the time. But no, she just is. She just is. Also, I'm pretty sure there's no, like, mean girl rival for Dylan that she's running up against Spring Fling Queen for. Amy Lubaloo is that version of the character. So the person that, like, Dylan is jealous of the entire time is Amy, because Amy is a popular girl in the book versus in the movie where she's, you know, portrayed as like a crunchy granola riot girl. I just realized my camera's fucked up the whole time. Like, I knocked it over right before I filmed and I just left it that way. It's so annoying. The reveal that Amy and Dylan used to be friends is saved until, like, the final chapter when they finally, like, really talk to each other at the end, and it's completely, you know, on accident. Like, they just happen to run into each other in the bathroom. And again, another big change from book to movie is that Josh and Amy do actually end up together by the end of the story. I already told you that Josh and Dylan don't end up together. That's because Josh and Amy do. The scene where Asher and Dylan break up is a little bit different. Instead of it being in class, where he, like, passes a note to her in the middle of a lecture, instead it's while they're at Pinkberry, or this book's version of Pinkberry, so they're getting frozen yogurt together, and he's like, yeah, I'm just, like, super busy right now, so, like, you know, I think we should take a break or whatever. I mean, he's a fucking sleazeball in both versions of the story, so. Another location difference is that the book takes place in LA, so all of the characters, you know, live in, like, these really rich big houses in Los Angeles, and Josh and his mom live in, like, a little sleepy suburb really close to Hollywood, so, like, you can, like, see the Hollywood sign really close up from, like, his window or something. I don't know anything about California. I don't know about the layout enough to know if that's, like, realistic or not, if there's, like, suburbs in the area that, like, somebody of a middle-class background would be able to afford, but in the movie, it's pretty nondescript where they live, but it seems to be more of, like, a small town type setting. A big example of this is the scene where Josh's car breaks down. That is in the book, in fact. I'm pretty sure it's at the same time in the story as well, after the volleyball game at the beach that he's filming them at. His car breaks down, except instead of it being just, like, in a random neighborhood where the beach is at, it's on like Sunset Boulevard or something. It's in the middle of LA traffic where it's like bumper to bumper and his car breaks down, which is just horrifying, honestly. So what it is he carries Dylan bridal style, like, down the freeway to the nearest gas station. His car runs out of fucking gas. It doesn't even break down. Ugh. So in the movie, it makes a little bit more sense because, he has a junker car because it's probably his first car ever, and their family can't afford to get him a brand new car. It's just him and his mom, right? So of course it breaks down. But yeah, in the book, he just forgets to put more gas in it. And he's like, it's actually Dylan's fault that I forgot to put gas because she kept on texting me to be there on time, and so I was rushing over to the beach, and so I didn't get to put gas in my car. Like, fuck you. This is your fault. In the movie, the reason why his car explodes, basically, is because Dylan turned on the radio, which, overworked the battery while he was trying to rev up the car. So yeah, he carries her bridal style to, like, the closest gas station, and she's, like, freaking out. Oh, and he does that because she does twist her ankle because she's wearing, like, these giant heels. Same thing, same situation. So yeah, like I said, the whole spring fling queen moment doesn't happen because she doesn't win spring fling queen in the book because she doesn't go to the spring fling. I think it's time to get into why that is, so let's do that. By the way, I'm like trying to replicate like what like a prom look or something would be. So that's why I have this wild updo butterfly clips. I put makeup on, but I clearly don't have anything nice to wear, so I'm just wearing my English teacher cardigan. So this is the worst part for me. About the book, and I think one of the best changes they made from book to movie. So the documentary that Josh is making is not for a film festival or for like an award thing. It is specifically supposed to be, I'm pretty sure, like his application to USC. Is that the name of the school? It's a film school. He wants to go to film school when he graduates, and his submission to getting in is going to be this documentary. So the movie is not supposed to have any correlation to Dylan being more popular because she doesn't want to do it. So like there's no connection of like, oh my gosh, like you getting a movie made about you is going to like totally win you the crown. Like they're not connected at all. And the reason why they do that in the book, I'm pretty sure, is because the movie ruins Dylan's popularity.
I should clarify, the movie coming out doesn't absolutely kill Dylan's popularity. What actually happens in the book is that Asher decides to break up with her right before the spring fling. Also, it's called the fall fling in the book. This is all during the fall semester. I just completely forgot about that and screwed that up throughout the entire video, so you're just gonna have to deal with that, sorry. But Asher breaks up with Dylan very soon before the fall fling, and it's also around Halloween time. That's why it's important to know that it's in the fall. So Dylan goes to a Halloween party and makes a total epic fail of herself. I'm sorry. She like spills a can of Coke on her dress and she rips it, and she like smears her makeup because she starts crying for whatever reason. I think it's just because she's embarrassed, I guess. But I don't understand how a can of Coke would like stain a dress so much so that it would like look embarrassing. Like it was a bright pink dress. All it would do is make it look like wet, and then it would just like dry. Anyways, sorry, I'm on a tangent. But yeah, at that point in the book, it is already a fact that her popularity is at stake and is in a precarious spot. So the documentary coming out is supposed to put her back on top. She's hoping it'll like, give her popularity back, because after Asher broke up with her, she essentially had none of it. Like all of her friends stopped wanting to hang out with her, and she had nothing to do on the weekends. No one were inviting her to the parties or anything. So that's how the movie relates to her popularity, but it's only after the film has already been made at the very end. Throughout the entire filmmaking process, she has no connection to it. She has no interest or want or desire until the very last minute. It's not a very satisfying thing to have the whole central premise of the book be about the documentary and to only have one of the two main characters actually care about it. I still think it's quite frustrating how awkward the setup was throughout this book, and I really appreciate that they were able to sort of fix it in the movie. Specifically, yes, the movie isn't the most non-stereotypical story layout. It's very, very by-the-book screwball comedy style rom-com kind of storytelling. And I'm very biased because I love a good screwball comedy. I recently just rewatched It Happened One Night, and it's such a good movie. I could see that movie being a huge inspiration on Geek Charming, in the same way that, like, every rom-com and screwball comedy is inspired by It Happened One Night, because it was one of the first of the genre, if not the first of the genre. So anyways, I say all of this to say that I understand that the movie is following a very direct archetype and isn't like the most revolutionary thing in the world, and I understand that it's just my personal opinion that the book doesn't work with the story as well as the movie does. You can fully disagree with me based on all of the facts that I've laid out to you about the book in this video. And also I recommend you read it yourself to get your own opinion on it, if you want to. The font is really large and there's not that many pages, so it's quite a quick read if you're into that kind of thing. So anyways, back to the rest of the video.
This part gives me a migraine. Like, I hate it. Like, I hate this part of the book. I don't know if you can tell from like the colors, but like near the end here, we get a whole lot of pink because there was a whole lot of just shit I thought was lame in this back half of the book. So both stories have the movie causing them to split apart, only for them to be reunited together at the end. But how the book gets to that is so annoying in my opinion. I'll talk more about the actual movie and what it means for each story after this part, because it provides a lot of context as to why these moments are different. So Steven is the editor of the documentary. I guess all three of them are submitting this so they can get into film school. Well, I don't know why Ari and Steven are helping Josh with this movie so much if it's not going to really benefit them in any way. I mean, I guess they get included in the credits, but like, I guess they could also just be submitting this to film school, I don't know. But Steven is the editor. And Steven in this version of the book is, like, he's exclusively described as being fat. Like, that's his whole thing. It's like, he shoves a bunch of Pringles down his throat and burps and scratches his giant stomach, and it's like, okay. Whatever. I don't care if you describe a character as fat. It doesn't matter at all to me. But, like, that's literally his whole defining character trait. Oh, he's fat and he's like, greedy, I guess. I never picked up on the fact that he was, like, obsessed with money or, like, getting views or likes or anything. But near the end of the story, he's finished editing the documentary and he shows it to Josh, and Josh is like, what the fuck is this? Because he only includes the worst moments of Dylan and makes her look like an awful person. And Steven is like, what? It's sensational. It's awesome. It's like what they show on MTV. Like, why do you think Jersey Shore was such a big hit? Like, this is gonna be a big hit. And Josh is like, I've become friends with her now. Like, I think it would be, like, rude to portray her in this light. And he's like, there were many moments that we filmed that would give her, like, a little bit more of a dynamic, you know, more complex understanding of her. And Steven is like, no, but that's not gonna make money. That's boring. Like, that's boring. We need her, like, screaming at people at parties and, like, being an asshole. So Josh is like, fuck you, leave, and he decides to re-edit the entire documentary. Yeah, but what about that shot of her I got when I was leaving her house that night after the UCLA party? I asked. The one where she's standing at the front door waving in the way that the moonlight hits her makes her look so small and frail and sad, like a character out of a French film. I can't believe you left that out. Boring, said Steven. I put the DVD in his case. Look, I know Dylan can be a little difficult at times. Like that day she freaked out on me when we were shooting her at the nail place and she asked me to bring her that bottle of pale pink, and it turns out there are around 75 pale pinks to choose from. So I grabbed 5 of them and none of them were the right one, he replied. Dude, you're so lucky I restrained myself from including that in the cut. I'm telling you, people would so despise her if they saw that. Come on, give her a break. She had major PMS that day. Oh, this is so 2009. He laughed. Hey, Mr. Fair and Balanced documentary filmmaker, what happened to telling the truth? That's the truth. Just like that puppy part is the truth. Oh yeah, there was also her playing with some puppies, like they filmed that, and he was like, how come you didn't include her playing with the puppies? Like, that makes her look cool and nice. Maybe I had lost my objectivity over the course of this filming, but I had found that this popularity thing, and more importantly Dylan, wasn't black and white. It was gray. I knew that underneath the shiny blonde hair and designer clothes and the brand new BMW was a girl who thought of herself as a curly-haired, metal-mouthed 5th grader who wore the wrong jeans and carried the wrong backpack and had a poster of a kitten hanging from a tree that said, hang in there, on her bedroom wall. This is the part that fucking gets me, okay? Let me read this part. Fine, he said as he stood up. Be that way. He walked to the door. Maybe me and Ari will just film our own documentary. That never happens, by the way. I didn't even reply. I just sat down at my desk, cracked my neck, and pulled up iMovie on my computer so I can get to work. I just knew there was a way to strike a balance in this documentary, some kind of Annie in Annie Hall. Sure, she was neurotic and annoying, but she was also funny and cute. Dylan was my Annie, and I would work day and night if I needed to show the world how deep and multi-layered she was. Okay, maybe deep and multi-layered was pushing it, but I could at least show that while she had her moments, she wasn't a drama queen 24/7. I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna throw myself off a bridge. I cannot believe this book is doing this to me. I mean, Josh hit the nail right on the fucking head when he said that. These characters aren't multi-layered and complex in the book. They don't actually grow or change throughout the entire thing, besides becoming friends with each other. Or I guess you should say Josh doesn't change at all. He stays the exact same. The only difference is that his obsessive, creepy crush he has on Amy comes to fruition and they end up dating. Dylan no longer becomes popular, but not of her own fruition. It happens completely out of her own hands. She doesn't make the choice to not be popular anymore. It just happens to her, and then she goes, oh well, I guess I don't need that anymore, but I'm still me, by the way. Like, that's the final line of the entire book. But you know, I'm still me. She says that throughout the entire final chapter. You can feel this like deep fear that the people reading the book are not gonna like Dylan by the end, so they felt the need to revoke her popularity privileges, to be like, see, she's actually a good person because she doesn't care about popularity anymore. But like, they realize that that is a complete contrast to who she was, because in this story, popularity is dressing a certain way, being feminine in a certain way, being a certain size. We'll get there just in a second. And for her to like throw away popularity would be for her to throw away the only characterization she's ever gotten in this thing. So they can constantly say in the final chapter, like, I'm still me though. Like, I still love shopping and dressing, like, you know, and all the latest trends and stuff. But now I just don't feel like a social pressure to do that every day. And that's nice. I like that. But that's it. That's it. Josh gets over his anxieties surrounding being sick and ill all the time, and he stops using his inhaler as a form of treating his anxiety. But these are all like surface level, like top things that you could like easily kind of brush away about their characters. It's not like a deep thematic change within them. They're still the exact same people. They've just kicked some bad habits is all. In the movie, Dylan has warped ideas of how the world works. She says the whole, like, cats don't hang with dogs, right? That's the famous phrase that she says that everyone laughs at her for when it's in the documentary. And much like in the book, she does think that popularity is, like, a very specific thing that she needs to follow and learn about. Specifically, that friendship and creating bonds with people aren't real things. They're these shallow, like, pawns that you move around in the game of life. Like, having a boyfriend, having friends. They're all just means to an end, to becoming higher in the social order. And she learns that people who actually care about her and want her company, like Amy and like Josh, romantically and then platonically, either way, that is what making human connections is all about. Like, she learns something in the end and she changes fundamentally as a person. I don't think Book Dylan learned anything about popularity and friendships and what it means to, you know, have a connection with somebody. Like, she learns that all of her friends are annoying and fake, which is true, and then she becomes friends with Josh, and that's it. And in the movie, Josh is a judgy asshole. Like, he has such a superiority complex, and so do all of his friends. And Josh learns to not have a stick up his ass the entire time, and learns to, like, understand people for more than they are than just by the surface level. I always picked up in the movie that Josh only really gets people as, like, movie characters. Like, they have specific archetypes that they follow, and he learns that, like, Dylan is much more than that. That's literally reflected in the documentary he makes. Flashback to what he said in his internal monologue about Dylan when he was re-editing the documentary. And I would work day and night if I needed to show the world how deep and multi-layered she was. Okay, maybe deep and multi-layered was pushing it. One of the things about Dylan that doesn't change in the book, I'm pretty sure, I didn't really pick up on it changing, but was really concerning to me, was a lot of like the weight issues that she has. She specifically is on Weight Watchers, even though she's already been described as being of normal body type or even thin. And she's obsessed with health and staying skinny and making sure she doesn't pig out or whatever. So she's like very obsessed with calorie counting and, you know, like that kind of like, it's kind of a riff on like how people live in LA, how they're all obsessed with like you know, like vegan granola and frozen yogurt and like everything being low fat or non-fat. So when she goes to the diner with Josh and he orders like a giant plate of fries, she's like, oh no, I can't eat that. Those are way too bad for me. But then she like starts eating them. And it's supposed to be that through hanging out with Josh, she realizes that she can just eat whatever she wants. But that doesn't really like fundamentally change. I don't know, it just like the anxiety inhaler thing, it's like these are just like very surface level ways of like these kind of like coping mechanisms and forms of self-harm even that these characters do, that is just like there's no thought put into it of like, oh yeah, that's like a form of self-harm. Because I think it is like using an inhaler to fix your anxiety and constantly, you know, like watching your weight, and there's a phrase for it too. And I mean, it was 2009, so like that is a long time ago, but also not that long ago. Like, you know, conversations about this were happening back then, so. And it's a book for kids, so like, that's why I'm a bit concerned as well. One thing about Disney Channel's sterile form of filmmaking is that they would never let something toxic like that seep in. Unless it was Girl Meets World, but that's a discussion for another day. Camera just died, and I charged it to like 2%. So I can finish this part. The documentary that Josh makes for the movie is a microcosm for the audience experiencing the entire movie itself. Something that I'm really glad I was able to do before recording this video was watch this movie with somebody else who knows nothing about the Disney Channel. My grandmother came to visit me and stayed the night, and we were trying to find a movie to watch on Netflix, and all of a sudden she was like, you know what, I want to watch a rom-com. I haven't watched a rom-com in a long time. And because I had Geek trombing on the brain, I was like, guess which movie I just got on DVD? And she had heard nothing about it, of course. She knows nothing about the Disney Channel, just from what I've mentioned or when I put it on at her house, because she has cable. And so I put it on and we watched it together, and it was so great to watch her viewing experience as somebody who knows a lot about the series. In that first opening scene at the lunch cafeteria where they like dump their food on each other, the whole time she was like, I hate Dylan. She's the worst. And I was like, I just found that so interesting. And then as the movie goes on, as you learn more about her and the thing with her mom, and you realize that like a lot of her attention-seeking behavior is so she can get validation because she doesn't feel it, because her mom is not there and her dad is always absent. Basically, Dylan has mommy issues. That's the whole point of the movie. So as you learn this information be revealed, you start to grow to like her, and then you even root for her by the end of the movie. That's what the popularity project does. It does that exact thing. And if you were like Dylan and you saw the first half or the first quarter and you dipped out because you were like, this is bad, then you're missing out on a cool and interesting part of the story. Like, they did that on purpose, versus in the book, which I really don't feel like these characters being unlikable and flat. It doesn't feel like that was for a reason. They just are that way. You want to know how the documentary scene plays out in the book? You want to fucking know how it plays out in the book? Is that, like we said already, like we already established, Steven made an edit of the movie that was unfavorable towards Dylan, and Josh re-edited the movie so it would be more accurate to his vision of her. Someone who is nice and caring and is a good friend, even if she's a bit eccentric. Well, Dylan decides to host a little movie watching party because at this point Asher dumped her, and as soon as Asher dumped her, basically everybody in her circle also did. So it was basically implied that all of her popularity came from Asher. So she thinks as a way to get her popularity back and gain, attention back to herself, she decides to host a party where everyone will watch the movie. And not that many people show up in the first place, but, still enough people to witness what happens. And Josh is there along with Ari and Steven, and he puts the DVD into the viewer, and apparently, oops, he grabbed the wrong DVD. And he ends up playing Steven's edit of the documentary, and it makes her look so bad. They only watch like the first 5 minutes of it before she's like, you should shut it off. And that's what causes the rift between them. So in both versions of the story, Dylan feels genuinely disrespected at the fact that that is how Josh would see her. That after all the bonding they did, she is still just like this bitchy mean girl to them. And in the movie, it is still a bit contrived, that she just happens to run out before she finishes watching it. That really does have that, like, well, here's the third act break. The characters are supposed to have their split up where they all break up, and then that starts the third act of the movie. Like that, it's a bit too contrived. Like realistically, I don't know if that would actually happen. So the movie has its faults, I realize that. But in the book, it's even more contrived because, like, what about Josh as a character implies the way that ended up happening? Like what, like it has no meaning whatsoever that he just accidentally brought the wrong DVD. It doesn't contribute anything to any sort of plot or story. Even in the Disney Channel movie, you can at least even assume that, like, because he was having a hard time making the documentary and he was behind, that he had to ask for an extension even though that wasn't allowed, that the first part of the movie he had already had edited, so like he didn't have enough time to go back and try and redo the first part. So he just kept the kind of angry, not too pleasant version of her in the beginning, and then subverted you as you went on, purely just because he wasn't able to re-edit the beginning. But that's just like a personal headcanon of mine. It's even more fun to think that he deliberately made the film this way, in the same way that the actual filmmakers in our real life made the movie Geek Charming that way. It is so you can watch a character evolution over time. You can watch them grow as people and change. And as they grow and change, our perception of them changes. It's cool and it's interesting and it's fun. It's what movies can do. They have the ability to do something like that. But yeah, in the book, he just brings the wrong DVD on accident. And eventually he's able to explain it to Dylan. And then that's why on Spring Fling Day, Dylan is just planning on spending time by herself on the prom day or whatever. But then she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go apologize to Josh. And so she does. And specifically, it's that she talks with Amy. They happen to like run into each other at the bathroom, and Amy's the one who explains to her, in the same way as it is in the movie, that Josh didn't mean to hurt you like that. It was, it was a complete accident. So a big part of the reason why Dylan goes to apologize to Josh is so she can tell him, like, hey, go to the spring fling with Amy. Because he had so much anxiety and he was so afraid of asking her that he never did. Even though the whole time apparently Amy wanted Josh to ask him. I just genuinely like to think that the writers of the movie were told to make an adaptation of the book and, decided to try and incorporate a lot more of the elements that were being shamed in the book regarding popularity and, like, high school things, and give them a positive spin. I think in the book, the idea of school dances are just inherently shallow. Like, you get that kind of feeling of projection a little bit. Like, well, I never went to a school dance, so, like, they're all stupid anyways. So, like, Dylan not going to the spring fling in the book is like her, disregarding all of that shallow concept of popularity and embracing being her true self. And it's like, she can be her true self and still go to the dance and wear a pretty dress.
I know this isn't all that revolutionary in the modern day, but I think especially for 2011, this was a pretty good ending for a movie to have, especially about teenage girls and popularity and feminine identity and all that stuff. I think since Disney Channel did have a majority female fan base at the time, they tried their best to not talk down to their audience and not, portray like a Taming of the Shrews type story to their impressionable young minds, because I think it can be damaging for a lot of people. I recommend you read this Geek Charming book if you think any of the ideas are interesting. I actually had quite a fun time reading it. It was a fun read, even though I have many issues with the book and I think there are many fundamental flaws. I still think it was relatively engaging and interesting to read. But I honestly don't think I would recommend it to children, unlike other Disney Channel books that I've read so far, like Lemonade Mouth, because I think there really are some harmful things in here that I wouldn't want young girls to be learning, because I feel like it's very unhelpful to a growing mind. So overall, that's just what I think about the book versus the movie. I know I said like in the movie and in the book like 10 million times in this video, but what are you gonna do?
The big thing I think I have to mention about this whole thing is the romance part of it all. And we're gonna get a bit serious now, guys, so I want to put some content warnings on the screen. We're gonna talk about domestic violence, domestic abuse. I know a big change in tone, but it's a big part of this section of the video. So for those who don't know, the two actors who played Josh and Dylan in the movie were together in real life. Apparently the two of them met when they were auditioning for High School Musical 3. Sarah Hyland was not in High School Musical 3, but the guy was. He played like Troy Bolton's replacement. And Sarah Hyland then went on to star in Modern Family and become really big and successful. I always wondered why she was in a random DCOM, even though she already had a pretty busy and successful career. They had already been dating for years and actually lived together when they were both cast for the movie Geek Charming. It's clear that the Disney Channel wanted a real-life couple to play these characters. So for the movie, you can feel a lot of the chemistry they have with one another because they had been together for years at that point. So for the movie, it really works that they end up dating at the end because you can feel that kind of romantic chemistry between them build as the story goes on. It gives you those feelings that any good rom-com should, where it's like, ooh, will they or won't they? Because there's actual tension, push and pull there. In the book, there's none of that. I don't think it's supposed to be a rom-com at all. The only reason why you might think they might get together at some point is because they are a boy and a girl, and in society, it is just assumed that boy and girl will date. But they don't, because they're not compatible romantically at all, and that's very clear. So for the book, it works that they are best friends, and in the movie, it works that they're romantically involved. The reason why I had to give those content warnings is because it later came out that Sarah Hyland was abused in this relationship. Apparently, he physically abused her. Once you learn about that, I do understand that it can be very hard to enjoy this movie. I always thought that the actor who played Josh was the literal worst. No offense. Well, I would say no offense, but like he's just a bad actor. Like while watching the movie, it's just so clear that he is just so much worse at acting than she is. And it's also clear that he is just like clearly relying on her fame to get him roles, because if you go on his IMDb page, like literally everything he's been in, he's also been in with Sarah Hyland, besides High School Musical 3. And I don't know, maybe starring on one of the biggest sitcoms of the decade means more than having like 5 lines of dialogue in the third High School Musical movie. Sarah Hyland is now married and clearly living her best life, she has that Modern Family bag. So I'm really glad to see that she was able to move on from the situation and come out on a better side, and that he has completely disappeared into obscurity. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that at the end here, because it is a very important part of this story. I still think that this is a really great movie, and so many other people worked on this film, and Sarah Hyland just acts her ass off in this thing. She is so good in this movie. For the longest time I was like, should I even make a video about this, because after learning about this details come out, but I was like, well, so many other people worked on this thing. It feels wrong to discredit their work because one guy who did a horrible job in the movie didn't even, I don't want him to ruin it for the rest of the people who worked on this thing, because I do think there was a lot of artistry behind this project. And literally the only reason why he was cast in the lead role is because of who he was dating. They much would have gotten a better actor if that wasn't the case, in my opinion. So yeah, that's it. Hello everyone. Sorry for the chaotic setup right now. I am moving, which is why this video has kind of been a bit all over the place. I was kind of filming this part of the video, or this whole video in general, very, very quickly because moving, like I said, and this was the last thing I filmed in this room before going back home for summer vacation. It has since been 9 fucking months since I've recorded all of this, and I'm now finally uploading this video in November. Life is strange sometimes. So I didn't really get to clarify and say thank you for 800 subscribers. It's something that I'm very, very
glad and happy about. So we're going to do the 800 subscriber special. Hopefully it'll be the next video, if not the one after that, where I watch all 6 Cinderella story movies, because you might remember the first one with Hilary Duff back in the 2000s, but there are 5 more after that. So yeah, I'm going to review and rank all of them, because I did a poll a while back, you know, for when we reached 800 subscribers of like, what should we do? And that's what everyone chose. Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for that. I don't even think I hit 800 subscribers by the time I was recording my video. I'm having trouble remembering now. Also, I'm glad my videos on 5 Sauce are doing really well. I was a bit afraid that people weren't going to want to hear me talk about music, and they were just like, shut up and talk about Disney Channel, which I love to do. Like, I have so many ideas for Disney Channel videos, and we're gonna lead up to like one big Disney Channel video coming out in December, hopefully. But yeah, I was a bit afraid that like my audience wouldn't like it that much, so I'm really glad to see all the positive reception on that. So I guess that's it. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. This was something that took me a long time to conceive of, just purely because I had to read a whole book, and you would think since I'm an English major, reading a whole book wouldn't be that big of a deal, but at least for like dedicating time to these videos it was. This is mainly something I do in my free time. I am a college student full-time, so, you know, having to do all of my school reading on top of, like, doing an extra book reading, it kind of delayed things a bit. Although I will say, now that I've become a college student, because I started this book before I went back to school, I took a gap year, if anyone wants any, you know, lore behind me. So I started this channel when I was, you know, doing my gap year. And I actually just found it really hard to like work my way through this book and read it until I started school. And once I started school, I was able to just like really sprint through all of it. So I guess I like regained my attention span or something, I don't know. So yes, this video was a long time in the making, and I'm very happy I've now been able to make it. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Next time you see me on this channel, I'll be back in my old setup from before I moved here. So that's exciting. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.